Hello, my name is Cornel Fatulescu. I'm Chief Platform Officer at Pentalog, meaning I'm in charge with products and technology strategy of the group, Pentalog Group. And I'm very happy to be your host today at a new CTO talk. This session, it's specially conceived to stress our understanding, our definition of the ideal CTO role. Now, what kind of definition is that? If you are more interested, there is a series called CTO Fundamentals. It's in your reach, available out there on pentalog.com. Just search for CTO Fundamentals and you will find ideal CTO that frames for the first time from our behalf the CTO role. And it's about a character called Bob. From that series, we've extracted a list of questions that I'm going to ask our guest, and I'm taking different guests, real CTOs or engineering leaders in engineering, leading technology teams, and I'm asking them the same questions from CTO talk to CTO talk, so that we stress that view. And eventually, in the end, we will compare these answers and we will see if that initial ideal CTO list of requirements still stands, huh? If these answers support or not that view. And for this session, we have another special guest. This is Michael. Michael, please join us and say a few words about yourself, your background, and what makes EasyVista a great group.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Cornel. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Michaël Cohen. I'm the CTO of EasyVista Group. Recently, I just started in Jan. Before that, I was working at Debitel. So I started as a developer long time ago.
Like Bob.
The mobile telecom company. Then I moved very quickly to Agencia. It was an Expedia subsidiary, working in corporate travel during multiple years. And I think it's where I've learned a lot of things about SaaS technologies, about technology in general, and the way to proceed as a director of technology. And then I moved in different CTO role in different companies. CTO at TraceOne, a big software editor in the retail. Then I moved as a CTO again at Exae. It was a subsidiary of Cegid, a big HR and finance company in public sector. And now working at EasyVista as a CTO group. So my role is to make the company integrate the 3 or 4 different integration we have and the 3 or 4 acquisition we have done recently, motivating the people, integrating the teams, changing the organization, changing the technical stacks, making the convergence between technologies, multiple different things. EasyVista is a big player in Europe, working in ITSM world and more recently in ITOM world, all about monitoring, remote desktop support, everything about digital user experience. We have acquired a new company called ITSM, working in collecting different information from desktop users. So multiple different technologies, multiple different teams across the world. We are serving 3,000 customers worldwide, and we have 35% of our activity in US today. So big activity, and we have to work on strategy, technology, and many passionate topics. So I'm really happy to be here and to share with you some of my experience, let's say. I love my job. I love my job and I love my company currently. So really, really interesting project and really interesting challenge. So really happy to be here with you today.
Very happy as well. And dear audience, this is every guest is a bit different, unique implementations of the CTO role. But in this case, we are talking about a CTO at the group level. And I think this is the first time we are inviting someone having this position. And please, dear audience, a part of questions come from me, and I hope a part of questions will come, the second part of questions will come from you, and this will make it a more interesting session, because we are also looking in the end of the types of questions we had from the public and see how we can integrate that in a more systematic way so that you get your answers with these from us with further occasions. Now, Michael.
Yes.
Michael.
As you want. Michael is good. I'm used to it. Depending, I mean, if you are really serious with me, you will call me Michael. But if it's like that, you can call me Michael.
Okay, very serious, Michael. So everyone has a different understanding about the CTO role. So how do you define the CTO role? And of course, when I'm asking this, especially at EasyVista, how does the CTO role look like at EasyVista? And I think in your special case, maybe you could say something like the my CTO at the group level. What does it mean? And what does it mean for CTOs in subsidiaries or companies in the group?
Absolutely. And so today, the definition of the CTO depends on who is talking about it. In fact, we have multiple definitions of CTOs. We have CTOs more in startup world, acting as technical leads, technical engineer. And the more the company will grow and the more the company will be important and the team, the size of the team is important, I think, then you will move to CTO with the C-level, let's say, more COMEX member, working as executive member. So that's what I'm doing today. So my role as a CTO is also a role as an executive of the company. So the role of the CTO in that case is working with my peers on the strategy. So defining the strategy of the company based on the past, based on the future, based on multiple different market impact, customer needs, partner needs, the technical background. So I need to be the technical interlocutor, so making sure that everything we plan at the strategic level, I will be able to make it at the technical level. So I'm able to understand quickly the direction, influence the direction if something is not going in the way I feel confident. So it's really working first on strategy, making sure that we define where we want to go. And then my role is working with the technical teams, different CTOs, different technical leaders, technical directors, and making sure that we launch the project to be on track and to be aligned with the exec strategy. What is very, very important and where I can see a lot of difficulties in other companies or things like that, it's where we have disalignment. When the strategy is not clearly defined and when the tech team doesn't know where to go. So my role today is to clearly define with the exec team the direction, the strategy, and make sure that the technical teams are aware of the strategy and make sure that we have the budget to make it, define and work with them to define the technical architecture that we need to implement to succeed. to be successful. That's my goal today, and that's the role. That's my main role. So the budget is not the main question, in fact. The role of the CTO is to really define what has to be done. What has to be done. So working on technical debt, working on customer requirement, working on products, working on market needs. And the money is not the real question. In fact, we have to do what we have to do. The money will help us to do it faster, more or less.
You know, I think this is a very interesting perspective, because most of the CTOs struggle with the budget stuff, like lots of requests, like lots of demands, lots of suffering out there, customers, internal users, external users, and so forth. And budget seems to be an important impediment. How come for you it seems maybe more accessible, but maybe that's not the
at one point, I used to be a little bit blocked when I was younger. So and I remember some of my CTOs, some of my mentors that I consider today as my mentors, told me, Michael, stop asking questions. Just do what you have to do, in fact. Making sure that we are doing what the business expects, what the customer expects. At one point in time, when a customer is asking something, I have an issue with my battery. I hope I will not have issue with my battery. Yes, when you have to do something, you have to make sure that you are doing the right things. You have to, the budget is not a question, is not a blocking point. We have to make the things happen. So yes, we have to decide, and yes, sometimes we have to say yes to things, and sometimes we have to say no to other things.
So in a sense, how I'm translating what you say is that there is a given capacity with existing budget, and there are things that go in, things that go out, and that's it. We just say no to things that don't.
We need to have, in fact, the prioritization meeting is very important, and we have to be clear with the exec team on what are the top priority of the company. So if it's not clear, of course, we will say yes to something, say yes to another thing. So we have to be clear on what is the strategy and what is the direction that need to be followed. And then, yes, sometimes it's hard to decide, but we have to plan, and we have to make sure that the topics are addressed. We have to do what we have to do at the end.
So I will get back to this, because we've touched many interesting aspects. So I've, in a sense, understood from what you said that the CTO, as a mission, needs to understand quickly, influence the direction, and translate it to technology. And actually, in the what Bob discovers as a role of the CTO, one of these key responsibilities was being a translator, from business to technology, from technology to business. And it seems the CTO role emerged from research and development during the 80s, where there was this need of having a CTO to translate the business into research, and the other way around. And the most important pain point was R&D activities didn't have return on investment. So somehow they needed, through this role, to make it profitable, link it to the strategy, make it part of the strategy. So that was the. Yes. Now back to the translation role. How much of your daily work is that? How much of is it highest priorities in your to-do? Is it?
Now, I think depending on the period of time where you are. In fact, when you are in a business plan definition, when you are in the budget time, yes, explanation is very important. And so it's very important to understand the business needs and the direction, again, to prioritize the different projects and make them and make them start in the technical side. Now, on a regular basis, we are meeting customers, we are meeting partners, we are meeting employees, and we have to explain the direction. Again, my role is to explain the vision of where we want to go, of course, coming from the company strategy. Then I will translate what the company strategy expects from me. If we want to have a scalable architecture, if we want to have more feature in the product, if we want to go in AI or machine learning, I need to take this as an input and put it in my roadmap. And then I have to make the story. I have to make the storytelling. So what are we going to tell to the market? What I'm going to tell to my customers? What I'm going to tell to the partners? And then also, I need to tell it also to the employee, because one of the basics of the execution, I think when you are executing, you have to repeat and repeat and repeat the plan and repeat the vision. It's not because you say the vision in one meeting at the beginning of the year that it will be done. My role is to repeat, repeat, repeat. It's coming from people. I know that at Agencia, what was really important was to define the direction. The direction can change because the market is changing, because we can have the COVID or we can have something like that coming, and then your plan needs to change. So you have to adapt. Now, what is important is where we go so that all the employees will be able to make their job converge in the direction of the strategy at their speed, at their level.
And how does it work in this hierarchy? Like you are defining pieces of this vision or entirely, or and then it's distilled to CTOs from the companies, and how do they contribute themselves?
Of course, they contribute all the time. In fact, when we are working on the strategy with the exec, I have to make regular meetings with all my teams, all my directs, to make sure that they are aware of what are the topics we are working on. And then they have to provide me architecture design, proof of concept on one single technology. I can be also part of the proof of concept. I can do things on my side. I'm an ex-developer, so I can manipulate the technologies and try things by myself, and then define with them what is technically possible, what is not technically possible, what is a real challenge, what are the risks. So I need to be aware of what kind of risk need to impact us, so that I will influence the timeline, I will influence the strategy to make sure that we are taking into account the risk and then mitigate the risk. All is about risk, in fact. Everything is about risk. Some things are really easy. I think everything related to product, everything related to feature implementation, there is no real risk. I think it's just a question of product and definition of the product itself. But for some other topics, when you are talking about technical debt, when you are talking about security, when you are talking about different things like that, not everything is easy. And then you have some risk, and you have to manage the risk as a CTO, defining what will be the best for the company, but also what is technically possible to do now. To limit the risk. So you have to make them collaborate in this strategy, and there will be some inputs also.
Okay, so I try to also put some comments, well, yes, if I manage to on the chat, and please, dear audience, ask your questions whenever they come. We will stop the conversation and ask Michaël, to be very serious, your questions live. So Michaël, again, so we've talked about the CTO role, about the translator role, with specificity in CTO at the group level. And now I'm going to ask you about the relationship with the executive management and your executive officer. So how does it work for you? How much time do you spend with the executive officer? Is that important? Anything that you think that might be useful for the audience? Today, of course, you could also say that you think that's not relevant.
It's very important. Very important. Probably one of the most important things is to be aligned completely with the CEO and the exec team. We, in fact, what is important is to be on the same rhythm with the CEO, to make sure that we are on the same page. Before joining the company, I wanted to meet the CEO because it's very important to absolutely be on the same page on multiple topics. I think about the strategy, about the way to proceed, about how you are in real life also, just talking about not technology, not about executive things, but just talking man to man. It's very important. So we have to share exactly the same vision. We don't have to be exactly, we don't have to proceed exactly the same way. We don't have to be exactly the same, but we need to have exactly the same energy, I think. And that's what we are sharing today with my boss. At least we are sharing the same humor. So we are laughing about the same thing.
So how much time do you spend in architecture, design, or in code?
It's probably one of the most important things to do. Before starting anything, you have to know exactly what you're going to do. So the design is, I like to have very simple things. And as a CTO, I cannot go in all the details. So what I like in my current job is to say, okay, where we are today. So we draw with square, with a row, and very simple high-level design diagram where we go. And then I go very often in what would be the final target, what would be the final architecture diagram at the end, when we will, in the perfect world, what do we want to have for this project as the best architecture for it? And then we define the plan, and I used to cut it in multiple different steps to say, okay, first step we go there, and then the second step we will go there. And so it's a never-ending story, in fact. Design is a never-ending story. So we have to discuss about it all the time for all important topics, for all important subjects, just to make sure we are going in the right direction. Doesn't matter if we go directly in the final direction, but we need to know where we go. Otherwise, there is no reason we will go. So I think it's very important to share with your architecture team, with your architects, to say and to be clear with them what is the direction, what they will have to provide for the other team to let the developer develop in a very secured way, where they will not have to reinvent the wheel or things like that. So we have to be very, so it's a never-ending exercise, and I do it almost every day on all the topics.
So we get this question from time to time. It seems to be an interesting aspect, a challenge. And there are these CTOs who consider, and you seem to be in this space, to consider that the CTO is also chief in architect, or
kind of.
So this is in a sense your answer, and you need to keep that accountability, and you are the chief architect in the group.
Yes, and yes, I think I have this responsibility. I think if there is an issue on the product anywhere, the problem will come to me. So I am responsible at the end. I have to be aware. Of course, I can rely on the architecture team. I can rely on the manager, on the director, on all the different people in the team. But at the end, I am responsible. For the owner of the company, I am responsible of the technical stacks for external systems, but also as a CTO group, I'm also responsible for, I have the I, information also, CTIO, so technical and information officer. So also for internal IT.
Okay.
Also for internal IT. So I have to make sure that all systems in the company are talking together in the right way. So for the financial systems with the HR system, we have to make sure that we have the right tools internally and also externally on the product itself. So yes, I'm the one making sure that we are on the best standards and that we are using the best technology wherever we are, for outside project or internal project.
Okay. So you keep accountability on this architecture and global architecture, and you also contribute to it massively, if I understood correctly.
Yes, but so very high level. Yes, I will contribute very high level, or I will take a very limited topic that I know I can manage by myself for an easy one, let's say, the easiest one. I will let to the team, the architecture team, the responsibility to design. Not the responsibility. At the end, I have the final responsibility, because if it's not working again, I am responsible. So the team will be in charge of making the design. They will present it to me, and in general, I approve.
Okay, so that was the other half of the question. Mm-hmm. How much time do you spend in designing stuff, and let's go straight to the point. How much time do you still code?
Yes, sometimes. Yes, I do. I love it.
And does this code go to production? Like that? I'm adding detailed questions so that.
Not directly. Not directly. I can be the one doing a proof of concept using some technology, showing that we can do without being an expert of anything. I'm not an expert of everything, but I can learn very quickly different things. I'm not the best programmer in the world, but I'm able to code in different languages. If I don't know, I will spend nights on one technology to understand it, working on MongoDB, React, working on React Native. Today, Tuesday, I'm working on React Native, but that's it. I love it. So I try the technology because I want to also show to the team that with imagination, with efforts, with trainings, we can do things. And yes, after, when we have to industrialize, we have to make sure that the code is secure, that I give it in general to the team. And yes, they will do a better job than me, I'm sure.
Good. I think we fully answered this question, and there was another one. Can you talk a bit more on storytelling? Do you got some examples, a blueprint, a way of proceeding? Thanks. A question from Guillaume.
About the storytelling, what is very important, and I think it's part of the experience that I have since a long time, a story that you cannot, something that you cannot explain very easily is not something that will work. If you are able to explain what your project will do in very simple words, then it gives you probably more confidence in the fact that you will succeed. And it's how I proceed. In general, I want to be sure that what we are proposing to the market, what we are proposing to the customer, that if we are able to tell it, if we are able to explain very in simple words, and it can be a very complex technology behind, using AI, machine learning, using different technical stacks that can be very complex. At the end, you have to sell it to a customer, or you have to sell it to an employee, or you have to sell it, the story, I mean. So if you are unable to explain what will do the product, then you have to go back and work again to make sure that you are able to make the story thing. I don't have any, I don't have a clue or any element to share, but I think it's coming with experience. What is very important is that you have to be confident in what you write. And if you are able to write it, I will give you maybe an example. So as I told you, and I think it helped me a lot to do it, because very often you know where you are starting, but not always. Very important point, be clear on where you are starting. So take time to design, even if it's not nice, take the time to draw where you are today. Take the time to define where you want to go. It's very important to understand what is the final stack. You don't need to be clear on everything. The things that you don't know, you let them as they are today. But the things you know, you write them. A good way to make a good storytelling is just to add one step in the middle. And you define your main topic. So you say, okay, how do I go from this step to the final step? And then I had one step in the middle. And then from this step in the middle, you add another 2 steps before and after. Progressively, you will see where you have some problem. You will see that sometimes between two steps, it's not so easy. In PowerPoint, it's very easy. It's one square and two square on the other step. But just doing that will help you to understand what the problem are, and that if you can't go from one step to another one and you are not confident in the way you tell it, then you have a problem. And then it will give you a lot of confidence when you go to your private equity, when you go to your exec team and you say, okay, this is where we are and this is where we go, you know exactly the path you are going to use and you will be very confident. So people will probably, if you feel confident, people will feel it.
Storytelling, partnership with executive and translator all at once. Do you change the vocabulary when you talk from different to different audiences, or is the same vocabulary?
I try to keep the same words, because if you change words, then confusion will come and then you will have issue. What is very important is to be clear on the words and try to use exactly the same everywhere. So yeah, where it's difficult in general, because you will create confusion and questions. So try to use exactly the same words everywhere. My recommendation. Another recommendation will also be, it saved my life multiple times. Don't go only with one plan. You have to prepare a plan B and a plan C sometime, just in case your plan A is not working fine. So be like a chess player. You need to have at least 1, 2, or 3 game in advance, so that you will go fast. If you have an issue, if your team come and say, okay, Michael, I have an issue here, 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 we cannot do it anymore, what do we do? And then you have to go fast. Very often you have to go fast because you have to find another solution. So be prepared to that. I'm always considering that one of the steps that I feel the happy path will fail. Then I prepare myself to the non-happy path.
So many things in what you say seem like a proven methodology in a sense. Know what you are, where you are, have a clear direction, not necessarily written in stone. It can change. Then work on the steps, and of course you need some alternative scenarios. Have a unique vocabulary so that we build a common shared language.
Exactly. Yeah.
So your audience, please, I hope you make benefit from what Michaël is saying here. And this leads me to another question in the executive space, the C-level space. So, for example, during the previous CTO talk, we had this person from the audience who was talking about, had asked about things that the CTO was always talking about: agile, scrum, sprints, things like this. And that was not an interesting thing for the executive officer. And that's not the first time we have this kind of questions. In a sense, like from the CTO, we ask them to understand, to know value drivers like EBITDA, revenue, lots of financial things from the world. We also expect from them to know strategy, competitive analysis, lots of things about their competition, who's doing what in this space, make technology competitive advantage or operation efficiency, know technology. And then some of the CTOs don't even have their pairs in security, in their privacy. They have to include all that. What's your take about it? Shouldn't the others also, in a sense, learn much more about the technology, and how to strive for this balance? What's the message that we should send?
At the C-level, yes, I think it's probably one of the main difference between C-level CTO and CTO in startups and things like that. CTO in startup remains technical leaders, technical director or something like that. At the C-level, you have to be aware of everything. Any topic that one of your customers will raise, you have to have an answer. You cannot say, I don't know. So you have to know a little, and that's what I love in my job. In fact, you have to know and be aware about products. So you have to play with Figma, with Miro. You have to play with Agile. You have to play with technical stacks. You have to talk with development teams. So talking to Java team sometimes, talking to Node, talking to React team, mobile app. So you need, and they expect you to give your opinion on their job, on their work. Yes.
And then, but when you say at the C-level, are you talking about the CTO at the C-level or everyone at C-level?
No, CTO at the C-level. CTO at the C-level. CTO at the C-level. The CTO at the C-level need to be also aware about security. You cannot say it's not me, it's a CISO or something like that. You have to be aware about basics of security. Sometimes you have to be also be able to conduct by yourself an audit in security, because you know the rules and you know what needs to be done and what you need to know the best practice in security. You need to be aware of security in hosting. You need to be aware of security in development. You need to be aware of security for employee. At the end, again, it's your responsibility. You have to make sure that the other C-level in your team are aware that it's very important, that every year you need to have your employee that should do a training. You have to let them know that security and technical debt is not, and you have to be aware about technical debt also, and to evaluate the technical debt. It's a question later, but.
And what are the limits? For example, to find a good excuse, Bob discovered that at one point in time, that was too much. He couldn't know all this stuff in brief details as a generalist. But to have good quality talks about everything else, it was impossible. So security was a huge field for him. Privacy and data management, another one. Machine learning, another sphere of knowledge. And for him, it was too much. And at one point in time, he said, well, I think I should share this as a CTO.
No, but you have to make sure, even though you are not the expert in everything, you have to be informed of what's happening in each team. So you have to know, because at the end, you know where you will be audited. For security, you know where you are audited. You have the result of the audit. So you need to read the results. So you need to understand them. And then based on those results, you need to take some action. Same for development. When you have a pen test started, and then you have the result, you need to be aware about XSS. You need to know about SQL injection. You need to know about a new hacking method. You need to know about phishing. You need to know about, and not only as a user, but understanding technically. And sometimes when you go in the detail, it's very, very complex. So you need to be able to understand. So yes, CTO role is not easy. It's complex. But that's what I love in my job. Really, it's being able to move in different areas.
So in a sense, there is this holistic approach, 360 degrees, domains of knowledge for product development, technology-driven product development. Don't know if without technology that even exists, but anyway. And then you need to develop this knowledge, at least at the generalist level, to understand the consequences of things that change. This is what you're saying, so that you can.
Again, I don't have to be the expert in how we are going to solve the issue or how we are going to track the issue and detect the issue. Yes, I can be, but I'm not the one that will do it. But I need to understand the impact of doing it or not doing it. Because at the end, it's a question, that's a question that people will ask me. Michael, should I do it or should we not do it? For security, it's a no-brainer. We have to do it, no question. But for some other things, the question at the end is that you have to decide. And the big question, and it's something coming from my experience at Expedia, we were always looking for who has the D. Who has the D of the decision. So, of course, we have to empower the team. And yes, we have to let the team decide by themselves and give them the power to decide on that kind of thing. But when the issue is very complex or very costly, sometimes it's very expensive. So it's coming up, and then you have to decide. But if you want to decide effectively, you have to understand the problem. So, and the problem can come on multiple different areas. Can be a project that is not well designed, and then you will postpone with business impact. So the business will say, Michael, why you are late? You said you will be ready in April. Where is the project? We had technical issue and things. So you have to say, okay, should we cut? Should we postpone? Should we stop sometime? Should we stop a project? And it's a big responsibility. So you have to be aware of multiple different topics. And yes, CTO at the C level means that you have a direct impact on the EBITDA, on the growth. You can have a big impact on the strategic plan if the project is not well delivered. So yes, responsibility is very high.
Good, good. Before going to a question which was written there, and it's funny what you said, because in our CTO assessments, we have these 360 degrees where the CTO subject self-assesses to improve. And when we do the tour and they say, well, this, I wasn't even aware of the field and things like this, but what matters is to become better at it. These people already hold those positions, so it doesn't really matter. It's just to know where they are, and again, improve.
For sure, you have to be also, you have to build your team, and you have to make sure that you have the right people next to you to be also some relay on your activities. So you have to be able to delegate to the CISO, to the RSSE, to the technical director in this team, etc. So of course, you do not decide everything, but you can rely on other people in your team. And it's very important to trust each of them.
Good. I will go to the next question, and we will try to answer 3 or 4 of them.
Okay, let's go to the question.
Accelerated pace. Anything very useful in 1 minute that you could share with the audience about CTO responsibilities in valuation, in company valuation? What a CTO can do to increase company's valuation?
Yes, today the CTO is depending on the activity of your company and about the sector. So recently I've done mostly some software editor. So CTO has a huge impact in different topics. So the valuation can come in 2 different steps. In fact, for the valuation, the CTO is a key element when for 2 different activities, and I've done both. So first one is when you are selling a company, and the other one when you are buying a company. So the CTO is very important for both of them, but for the valuation is when you are selling the company. What is very important is to define the strategy, be clear on the issues, what will be in general. So you have to be very confident in your plan. What is very important when you are selling the strategy, when you are selling the technical vision, that you feel confident. You don't have to stress too much. You don't have to be aware of everything. You don't have to be clear on everything. Nobody expects you to be able to predict what will happen in 5 years, but you have to be predictable. You have to be convinced, and your plan needs to explain exactly what will be the different steps, and all the things that I told you before will help you in that exercise. What will be very impactful as a CTO for your valuation will be the technical debt. Clearly, don't under-evaluate your technical debt. So be sure that you have a plan a remediation plan for each of the issue you have, and everybody has technical debt. So don't be so sad to have technical debt. Everybody, we have to live with that today. When we do an acquisition, when you do an acquisition, when you do some decisions, sometime in the past, you did not have the time to clean the code. So everybody has technical debt, but you need to have a plan to remediate, or at least to measure it. I think it's very important to be able to say, okay, I have a technical debt. I know what the issue are. I have a plan to solve it. And today, to mitigate the risk, I have installed a WAF, I have installed a firewall, I have installed something specific to mitigate the risk. Second topic will be the security, because very often technical debt and security are working together. So because you have technical debt, you have security issue very often, not always, but very often. So it's the only topic where you have to be careful for the valuation of the company. So that's why you have to do what you have to do. Do not, I think it's like technical debt. If you ask to the business, if you have to solve the technical debt, they will say no, because they will have a feature that they will be able to sell to a customer or something. So nobody, the business will never tell you to solve your technical debt, but it's your responsibility to manage it every sprint, to say, okay, I will manage this issue in this sprint, I will manage it, so that it's not the last topic in your list. It has to be in the first topic of your list, and don't ask the authorization. If you ask the authorization, everybody will say no. It's less priority than what we have to deliver to the customer. So don't ask everything.
Okay. There was a question about requirements, welcoming change from customers, because to sum it up, how do you avoid we will not lose customer with changing requirements? And I think this question went when we were talking about yes and no, and saying no.
Prioritization. Very often, what I've seen in the previous companies is that what is really painful for the customer is to not have any answer. Very often, when you request something, an evolution or a specific development, what the customer expects is an answer, yes or no. Okay, you want to do it? Yes, it's fine. I will wait for it. If you don't want to do it, if it's not in your plan, as a customer, I want to know, because if you don't tell me that you will not do it, I will not know it, so that I will not be able to find another way to do it. So the best things to do first is to give an answer to the customer, yes or no, but the fastest possible. If a customer asks for something, sometimes it's on your roadmap, and yes, you have to say yes, it will. Now, if it's not, you have to say clearly no, because it will give it will give an opportunity to the customer to use something else, at least. Otherwise, they are waiting for the answer. So, and then if the customer says no, if we say no to the customer, we can discuss. I think what is important is that we are able to discuss with the customer to understand why it's very important for him. Maybe we missed something, so it will be the starting point of something, another discussion, maybe later. And maybe if they want it faster, if they want it integrated in the roadmap, but at the end, you have to understand what is your core business. And for that, you don't have to if you are clear on your roadmap, if you are clear on your vision, and you are clear on your strategy, you can clearly say to someone, yes or no, it will be on my roadmap. And yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's difficult.
It is. But this is also what makes a strategy great. A strategy is stressed every day when you go to IKEA and you want to have personalized furniture and luxury furniture and things like this. You will get disappointed, and IKEA won't change overnight because you are unhappy. So great strategies doesn't mean you make every customer happy. It means you are very precise on which customers you want to serve.
But that's why it's very important to be aware of what the market and analysts are telling you. You have to be in advance on what your customer will ask you. You have to be to deliver the value before they expect it. And but what is important is to also accept some big customers sometimes, very big customers, because it's a way to improve your product also, because they are pushing your limit. And I think
they are stressing the strategy. Say, yeah, very interesting strategy, but I'm your biggest customer.
The biggest customer can be a pain, but in general, and it's how Agencia and Expedia we've done during years. So big customer gave us an opportunity to be better. So depending on the strategy, I think big customer need to be seen as an opportunity to be better and to provide value, because in general, those customers bring the needs that the smaller customer will have in few years. So we have to be able, and yes, but all customers are changing requirement all the time. So you have to discuss with them and again be clear on what you will be able to do and what you will not be able to do. Transparency is very important.
So how you've talked about technical debt, change management, security, lots of stuff. You've been in advance to many questions I was willing to ask. So very good. One question about how do you define leadership at EasyVista in terms of leadership style? Kind of.
We had at EasyVista. Maybe you know or not, but the leadership team is changing. We have, so I joined the company, the CEO joined, Patrice Barbadet joined the company 6 months ago. I joined 4 months ago. We have hired a new CXO, Customer Experience Officer, for all, to manage the customer satisfaction. So it's a new guy, Manu, he came 1 month ago, and we have now a new CFO, Pauline. She joined us also 2 months ago. Yeah, so we changed all the leadership team. The spirit at EasyVista is really incredible. It's a family style. You feel very well in this company. The spirit is really, really great. And with a new leadership team, we are going to provide maybe a little bit more a different kind of energy. I think we are all coming from SaaS provider, software editor, big experience, working in multiple different companies. So we are coming with something different, with another vision. We are changing a little bit the initial founders plan. So we are changing, we are putting our differences, and I think it's appreciated. I think it's a different style, it's a different energy. What we bring is a lot of optimism, a lot of confidence, a lot of transparency. So we are sharing a lot of information. We are giving a lot of transparency about the vision of where we are going to go, what is difficult, what is not, etc., etc. And we are working very closely. The team are absolutely fantastic, and the new acquisition also is bringing also a new energy. We have acquired 3 companies recently, so Goverland for remote support, ServiceNav, co-service company in Grenoble, with a lot of expertise in this team, working in SaaS with AI, machine learning, a lot of new technologies that we are bringing to the ITSM world. And ITSM world expertise will bring also a lot of expertise to the ITOM world. And the last company we have acquired recently is Itexis. It's a company that will provide to all CTOs, all CIOs, a lot of information about desktop information about KPI, about what kind of laptop, how much time does it take you to launch your browser. So we are bringing a lot of vision to the CIO so that it will take better decision. And that's what we expect as a CTO or as a CIO, to have all the information in one single dashboard, talking about internal issues and also monitoring about external and business issues. So performance on the server, performance on your different activities for customers, but also an overview of all the system inside your company, your HR system, your ticketing system. So we are going to provide this 360-degree view for people like me, like CTO, like DSC, like CISO, you are able to monitor everything. And if there is an issue, we are providing the tool.
And, so I've seen you are a European company that should solve lots of interesting questions for, especially for European customers concerned about.
But we have to see, Cornel, what tools you are using at Pentalog. Maybe we can have a discussion together.
Yes. And everyone who's interested here,
absolutely.
So don't hesitate to contact.
Send me your email. I will give you a code, discount code.
I never thought about it, but maybe we can do something in the future.
Yeah,
then one question about if you get feedback from different people you have worked with in the last 12 months, what is the skill they would appreciate you the more?
What I hear is the optimism and energy. I think that's what I hear.
We can see lots of energy. That's
yeah. And it's true that in general, when I have but it's my style. I think it's the way I'm managing the difficulties. Is that I always see the glass empty full. Full empty, full half.
We understood.
Yeah, that's it. So, and that's my way of managing my daily issue, because my work in general is only managing issues all the days. Issues meaning delays in project, resources off, budget that are cut or expanded. So you have always that kind of thing. So if you are too much stressed, you die at the end. So you have to move on. I think problems are part of the equation. So you have to take them as part of element you have to consider, but that's it. You have to go and move on and being positive and motivate your team. So that's my style, and I think it's what is appreciated. So
good. And I think we've been through most of the questions that were stressing the vision. One last thing, Michaël, before leaving this session, and not the least important, a very important thing. So we were used at the end of the session to ask the guests to say something, an advice for the audience. One thing, the most important thing that you think would make a difference for any CTO.
The big difference is go, go, go. Go, go, go. Do what you have to do.
Just do it.
Don't ask too much the permission to do something. I think what your boss is expecting from you is to take decision at your level, and whatever your level is. You are a CTO, you are not a CTO, you are a developer, you are a PO, you are a tester. Doesn't matter what role you have in your organization. Do what you have to do. Don't expect someone else to take the decision for you. So come with solution. Sometimes you can come with problem, but if you come with a problem, come also with a solution that you think we should do. And then your CTO will be really happy, your CEO, your boss in general will be very happy. So make some choice at your level and be clear on what it is, and don't expect. And I think I took time to understand that. And I think it was the day I understood that, I think I have been able to be a CTO. But for a long time, I have been a developer or a manager, waiting for permission, you know, to solve the bug.
Permission.
Yes, waiting the permission to solve the big bug that is impacting my team all the day. And then, yeah, but we don't have time. No. So always finding reason or excuse. Do what
taking responsibility.
Yeah, take responsibility. You know what is good for your team. You know what is good for customer. Nobody else than you know what is good for you. Don't expect the CTO or any manager to say, go left, go right. Sometimes they don't even know. Sometimes they don't know. So go for it. Do what you have to do. And I think the day I understood that, I think it gave me a lot of new opportunities. And I think I start becoming a CTO this day. So go.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, dear audience. Remember, it's a privilege what we do. Go. And let's assume responsibility and have an impact in this world. See you at the next.
Thank you. See you, Cornel. See you, everybody.
Bye.